Brian Heilig and his wife Diana had to deliver their first baby at 26 weeks due to severe preeclampsia while living in Cancun, Mexico. Grayson was only 12 inches long and weighed 1.6 pounds. Little did Brian know this dramatic event would also birth a joy for writing. Brian wrote a memoir about the journey it took to save Grayson's life. Breathe, Eat, Poop, and Grow, with all net proceeds going towards putting proper incubators into Mexican hospitals. Brian says, if we can help just one family save their baby's life, our mission will be accomplished. Brian, welcome to Triumph Talks. I am so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Melanie, and I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you have a marvelous book. I enjoyed reading it so much, and I'm really looking forward to discussing it. We'll just dive right in with the first question that I have for you, and that is, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, as we were going through our journey, part of it was going live, and we went onto social media. And in there, one of our friends in the comments, she wrote, "You should write a book," And while we were in it, it was impossible to even think that that could be something that I would do. Number one, I've never written a book, and a very average C student. So to even comprehend writing a book is just with
Well, that
everything
is
that we
not
ever.
C writing, I can tell you that. Wow, that's surprising, actually. I thought you were going to say you were a writer in college or something.
Well, I appreciate that. I
Uh,
appreciate that.
that's
But
surprising.
but that kind of planted the seed, and
Yeah.
then years later, I we're actually in church, and the pastor, he said, "Hey, look, have you ever asked God what He wants to do with your life?" And I thought, "Oh no, I never thought about that before." And so he said, "All right, let's do it, and close your eyes and just ask." And immediately I got, write the book, speak about it, and transform lives. And so I put the structure together and started writing pretty much right after that sermon.
Wow. And I know from having read it, there's many messages in the book, and it's not just for someone who might be going through what you have, although it definitely will be a very helpful book for them. But there's just a lot of wisdom and lessons and inspiration. I think that's a good segue into the next question that I have for you, and that is, what do you hope people will take from reading your book?
Well, that was kind of the original design, was to help parents that are going, through the NICU, dealing with like a premature baby or even a micro-preemie like we had. But it definitely morphed into much more. It was, holy cow, people are resonating with this. They're talking about, their faith in humanity is restored. Some people are actually getting back to God. Everything that we went through in our story is just a miraculous, inspiring hope for more. And the things that it took, and what we had to focus on, like laser focus on for our baby to save his life. It just, I've had people say, listen, if Grayson could do it, I can do it, and that's kind of my daily mantra after this, that there's not really a problem bigger than what we went through. So if we could get through that, we can pretty much get through anything.
That's amazing. I know I have some pictures we're going to bring up in a little bit that will let the viewers see just what a daunting effort that was to begin with.
It's
My oldest son came a month early, and he was 4.9 ounces. And
Wow.
I thought he was pretty tiny, but these
Yeah.
pictures definitely do a good job of explaining that. Well, I have your book right here on my bookshelf, and so I'm going to grab it.
Okay.
And I'd like to just take a minute to share some of the things that I took from reading your book, and maybe use that as a springboard to talk more about your story. The thing that I enjoyed immensely as a writer, and I am shocked to hear you're not a pro, because let me tell you, your descriptions are magnificent.
Wow.
So
Thank you.
so my first few samples from your book, or excerpts from your book, that I want to read are just meant to give the viewers a feel for how well you describe things.
Okay.
So So I'm going to read a couple. So here's the first one. I couldn't speak as the tears and I were fighting like boxers in the ring. They had me against the ropes, and all I could do was shake my head up and down, trying to crack a smile, yet producing more of a grimace. I know, baby, I know. I just love that. The imagery. Their imagery is what you are. You're a master. You should keep writing. Let me tell you. That's
Wow.
okay.
Thank you.
No, it gets better. It gets better. Okay, here's another
Okay.
one. The nurses unlocked her bed wheels, which sounded like thunder on a stormy night, startling Diana. Then, as the bed slowly started moving, the awareness of the reality about to ensue sank in. Similar to a roller coaster, the instant it releases for the drop. So much. All right, here's another one. Okay, and this one really is it's a good introduction to your doctor, who becomes very important when I want to talk about him. So let me read this, and then I'd like you to talk about this doctor kind of as the follow-up. Although it's really just all about the amazing imagery. Dr. Campos cut him off, turned to me, looked deeply into my eyes with his soulful aura, never breaking his stare, and spoke to me in Spanish, using words I'd never heard before, which didn't matter because I fell completely into his angelic trance that somehow calmed me in a way I hadn't felt before. His confidence radiated through the room, signaling that I was in his house now and that he would take care of my baby like his own. Never breaking eye contact, he placed his right hand on my shoulder blade, turning me effortlessly like a great dancer leads his partner while his left arm stretched out to take the next step. With the utmost trust, I broke our visual connection and slowly moved my head toward his lead. This just comparison between a great dancer that could just lead the partner, and just love that. And of course, Dr. Campos is the NICU head doctor over the NICU, and he did not speak English, and you didn't speak Spanish, although you did write a lot of Spanish in here, which I'd love to hear how you came to do that. I don't know if you've learned it since, but and, and so oftentimes you couldn't understand him. We have the translator, so he'd give thumbs up or down, and I'd love you to kind of just talk a little bit more about that experience and working with the doctors and struggling with the language barrier.
Yeah, that was one of the most difficult and frustrating things because, yes, we lived in Mexico, but when you get into, and we speak a little bit of Spanish, understand a lot more, but when you get to medical type Spanish, and then you go deeper into NICU Spanish, and then you go
Oh yeah,
Spanish, and then you go micro-preemie Spanish, like it's there. I knew nothing, and he didn't speak English, and so we would just look at each other, and it finally got to a literal game of charades, and it was very, very difficult and frustrating, and we didn't understand why the bells and whistles were going off. And later, once we made our move, then we could speak to people and understand what was actually happening. But in that moment, it was a helpless, scary, and frustrating situation. And we
it's a
even had
frustrating situation to begin with.
yeah,
And then not even to only know, you described later in the book at one point where things were not good and you didn't know why. And all he ended up doing was just that. And Diana breaks into tears and doesn't know why it's bad. And it's just, there's just so much sympathy, to be
and
felt for you.
we would even have translators come and help, but they didn't know the medical terms in Spanish, and so they definitely couldn't translate it in English. So we literally were just at a loss, and that was for 3 weeks.
That's unbelievable. There's another description I want to read. I'm not kidding when I say you are a fantastic writer.
Wow.
And I don't know if you have an ambition to write another book, but your skills are there. So I really enjoyed this part too. It said this is later on when you're looking into what it will take to bring Grayson home back out of Mexico, and you had gone to a consulate office. So I quickly assessed the consulate office, determining that the crazy lady behind the counter was angry at life and hated her job. The family before us lost their passport, and she was not showing remorse, only harsh facts and what to do next. We approached the counter. What do you need? She blurted out with a raspy, watered down accent, like a New Yorker who migrated to Florida for 30 years before somehow landing in Mexico. And I'm just like, just that alone, I'm just imagining what she must have sounded like.
Yeah.
Her tall and full stature was capped with a bleached blonde, disheveled hairdo. Her once beautiful ice blue eyes were bloodshot and faded from life's hard knocks, and the deep lines around her lips and yellow stained fingernails suggested she started smoking shortly after she was born. I raised my eyebrows in disbelief and thought, well, this should be interesting, before throwing her all the charm I could muster. I just, I know
Yeah.
that's just like one person that you bumped into in the course of all this, but the description was just so
I'll
fantastic.
never forget her. Yeah, that was whoo.
Well, and the nice thing is she was not hard on you guys at all, which I think that, which is so great because, you know, your description is she's just so tough, but then she just jumped into this challenge that you brought her. And, you know, I think that's really representative of what was happening all throughout your story. It was just one person after another that would step up and help you, and some were family and friends, and many, I want to call them strangers, just really, I don't know what's a good word. What would you call
I
them?
mean, that is it is. I mean, we literally had people from all over the world reaching
Yeah.
out to us. NICU
I
nurse.
guess that technically they're strangers, but it just, it's like you said a little
Angels.
earlier. It restores your hope in humanity that we really aren't strangers to each other
Right.
so much as we just haven't maybe had the opportunity to get to know each other, but we still love each other and support each other. And you had so many of those experiences.
Yeah.
And
It's-
again, I think that's what makes your book so impactful, because you're not just learning about a NICU experience, you're learning about the world still having charity for each other. And that's
yeah.
just remarkable.
The next part is a little bit difficult to express, which is our gratitude to you all. I mean, my gosh, I don't
Every
even know what
time
to
we
say.
look at Facebook,
It's a
we just
mess.
burst into tears. So I can't even be on. I can't even look anymore. It's like insane. But it's a good cry.
It's an amazing feeling. I'm literally shaking right now because of my gratitude to everybody out there. I mean, it's so impossible to tell you how many well wishes and prayers, the call to action when we needed the prayers, they were there. And it was amazing that at that moment when Grayson was not doing well, the prayers came in and he started doing better. You know, people changing their Facebook profile picture to Super G. The dream that you dream of once in a lullaby. Yes, it was.
And that is the perfect setup for another scene.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm doing all the talking here, but I
I know,
promise
I
I'm
love
not.
it. I've not heard much. Like we want to do an audio version of the book, and I know that I have to do it. But listening to you, I'm like, I'm getting emotional thinking, how could I actually read this book out loud? You know,
Yeah,
like,
I because
cr-
there's just, yeah,
uh,
it's a fun book to read because you're such a good writer.
thank you.
So this scene was very meaningful to me, and I'll explain it to you after I read it. But I was surprised by it in a very good way. All right, so it says, a soft knock on her door broke the silence in the room. Hello, I told the two young Mexican gentlemen wearing bright white dress shirts, colorful yet conservative ties, and dress pants. Each displayed a name badge, Elder Morales and Elder Godina. How can I help you? Hola, we are from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter day Saints and are here to give a blessing and support in any way you need. Diana suspiciously looked at me. I simply said, Zach. She immediately welled up and welcomed them into her room. Would you allow us to say a prayer for you? Elder Godina asked. Yes, please, Diana replied. They both laid their hands on Diana's head, bowed, and began to pray. Trying hard to hold back the tears, Diana finally closed her eyes as they continued their prayers for Diana and Grayson so eloquently in Spanish. The room's atmosphere became lighter, while simultaneously the sun increased its magnificent luminescence, leaving us again in awe of his sovereignty. That's just, here you have these people that you never met come and pray. And
No,
that meant a lot to me because my youngest son, he's actually down in Brazil on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ. So I read that. I could just so easily picture my son being the one that would just show up and give that
amazing.
blessing. So,
Yeah, that was amazing. Our friend Zach, he asked, can I send someone? And I was like, sure, of course, yes. And it was like an hour later, they were there at the hospital. I was like, how does that even? Because he's in Boca Raton, Florida.
yeah.
And we're,
Oh, yeah. It's a network, I guarantee. But
I'm just like blown away, and it was a very moving experience. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And I think too, it just shows the power of prayer. I love the way that you described the feeling in the room and how it lit up. And, I do believe light is from God, and, the sun is from God, and light allows us to see, but really it's God that allows us to see too,
Yeah, absolutely.
in every way. So you ran into a lot of problems, and I'm going to read another little bit and then we can dive right into the challenges. And then I'd love to bring up the pictures that I have from that time that come from your book, a lot of them. So,
Yes.
all right. So to set the scene, as most people might guess, it's very expensive to have a baby in NICU. And you had all kinds of additional challenges on top of that. And shockingly, because he was so small, he was too light to be insured, which was, I'd like you to talk. Let me go ahead and let you talk about that, and then I'll read this excerpt. Some of the obstacles that you were running into and the expenses. You want to talk about those?
I was supposed to let the insurance know, okay, the baby's born, add him to our insurance. And it kept getting delayed. Like I wasn't able to get the response back, like that he is absolutely on our policy. And it just finally, I needed to escalate it and figure out what was happening. And there was some crazy, weird loophole that somewhere states that the baby has to be a certain weight for them to even insure the baby. And I mean,
Who
this
would come
was,
up with such a rule? I can't even imagine that.
I mean,
I
we took
mean,
it to, yeah, we took it to an attorney and the whole thing, and they found some kind of weird loophole. And that's where I just went, with me and insurance is like, that's a sensitive subject. Cause man, I mean, when I've never been sick, we've never been sick. We've never needed insurance in our lives. And then she was denied coverage as well because her maternity coverage was supposed to kick in September. The baby was due in October, but the baby was due in July. So they're like, yeah, she's not covered either because it was due to pregnancy.
Oh, here you are stressed about your wife and your baby living, and then you have like, okay, now this is where what I'm about to read will start to really resonate with the viewers, I'm sure, because to think about what you're facing. I went through the numbers and told him, and this is Mike you're talking to. People, they're trying to help out. So it's someone named Mike. I told him, well, we have the medical expenses here, which are about $20,000. The flight is about $20,000, and the deposit for the hospital in Miami is $20,000. Outside of that, we don't know because we are literally going day by day, minute by minute. So that's the rough estimate, $60,000. Mike confirmed, then lightened the mood and said, we're at $60,000. Gotcha. I know we were talking, Brian, and it's like $20,000 here, $20,000 there. We all chuckled a bit, and then Diana piped in, yeah, I know. It's like every time we turn around, it's another $20,000.
Yeah.
Now we just laugh, seriously laugh. We're like, okay, let me pull that out of my back pocket. On top of that, we'll need to take a few trips back and forth. I mean, I just thought that section sort of, and that doesn't even begin to talk about all the expenses in the Mexican hospital and the fact that they wanted you to pay today and we're, chasing you down, I want my $20,000, if you know that movie, I want my $2.
Yeah, exactly. I want my $2. Yeah, no, I couldn't make a move in the hospital without, them trying to call me out, and
Yeah.
it got super crazy. But in Mexico, you pay day by day essentially. It's not like in the US where, just bill me later. It's like you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed that. And it's very different here. Yeah.
It's very different. So yeah, wow. Mike is our dear friend, by the way, and he suggested that we do a live at that time because so many people were reaching out to us, and
Hmm.
I could not get back to everyone individually, so we went live to kind of answer everybody's questions, and that's when things exploded as far as the worldwide help. So
Yeah.
the power of social media was in our favor, really big time.
Yeah. I love that. You brought the world together
Yeah.
for this challenge that you were facing, and everybody was praying for you. And I'm just, wow, that's just how the world should run.
Yeah.
And it does run, really, when we are able to know of each other's needs and come together to meet them. It's just
Yes.
remarkable.
It is incredible that I
Yeah.
get sometimes more choked up and emotional about all the support that we receive from, like you said, friends, family, but people we didn't even know. I mean, there was large anonymous monetary donations. No
Wow.
idea who it is. There was prayers from all over the world, prayer groups all over the world. It was just wow. It was amazingly humbling.
Yeah, it would be. It would be. I'm curious. How has your book been able to be promoted, advertised in such a way that all the people who were following you then may have found it? Like, do you feel like you're getting the same reach or?
I believe so because we started a private group for
Mhm.
Grayson. Then people,
Mm.
so we weren't just posting on our personal page every single second. So
Yeah.
there was about 1,000 people in that group, and I
Mm.
started a book
Okay.
launch group and everything. So I think we hit the main people that were watching and tuning in. They said
Good.
it was like the Truman Show. Every day they'd tune in. What's up with the Heiligs?
What's up? Yeah. Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that because I would think that they would really love to read the memoir, the full journey that they got pieces of while they were watching
Exactly.
your
A lot of
live.
people are like, "Wow, this filled all the in betweens."
Yeah. And it's just entertaining. I mean, your metaphors are just mind-blowingly entertaining sometimes. I'm just amazed by it. So,
Thank you. I
well,
appreciate it.
I have a lot of your pictures queued up. A lot of them were in the book. Of course, we get to look at them in color here. So
Yes.
that's really good. And I don't know if there's any certain order, but I'm just going to kind of click through them. And if you want to just kind of give the backstory or just talk a little bit about what we're looking at.
So this was days after he was born because Diana actually her body started shutting down. She went into the ICU while Grayson
Mm,
was in the NICU, so she didn't see her baby for like 4 days, and
mm.
finally, I mean, right there, she could hardly stand. She had just had her C-section, and we snapped a picture. We're actually smiling under there because that's what you're
Yeah,
used
I
to.
can tell you. I can tell she is. And she's got that smile look in her eyes. Yeah. Oh, and
And
here's
oh,
this is the impact picture right here.
yeah, this was the day he was born. At the first moment I saw him, he
Oh.
was encapsulated by these domes, and that
Mm.
is a newborn diaper because they don't have micro-preemie diapers in Mexico. So just imagine that a baby born, average male, average baby boy is 7 pounds, 6 ounces. That diaper would fit perfectly on a 7 pounder,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
it takes over his whole body.
Some amazing way to get a feel for how small he was. And this picture too. I
Ah,
love. So is this where the cover art comes from? Is this
no, not that one. That
okay?
one, that is me. That's my hand.
Yeah,
Grace.
that's right. The other
Um,
ones.
but we'll get to the cover in a
There's
minute.
another one.
Yeah, this
There,
is
now we see your faces.
so you can really see there that he was in a. They didn't at the time have a proper incubator, so he's in an open bed with saran wrap and a heat lamp.
Wow. Yeah, this is so here's another one of looking in at
Okay.
him.
So that's after we're transported to Miami. That's
Right.
what a proper incubator looks like, or isolate. And
So you went from their little makeshift little domes to
to
the
that,
proper one once you were
Yeah.
able to be transported.
it was incredible.
Now here's a picture. This is probably one of my favorites, and this is a side by side.
My buddy. Yeah, his
Look
skin,
at
he was so tiny. It was like his chest was
oh,
concave. You could see his ribs and everything. And now that picture, he's 7 years old holding the book of
uh,
him and his
with his
mother.
hand up in the air. I don't know if
Yeah,
you posed that on purpose, but
yeah.
you
No,
know.
no, that was just him in the NICU. We just snapped a million pictures and
Uh, so
yeah.
how is Grayson doing today? You want to tell us a little bit about how?
Yeah, he just turned 7 in July. He's, for all practical purposes, health wise, he's doing really well. At 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism, so he's on the spectrum. So he's been literally in therapy since the day he's born. He's a vivacious, beautiful boy that everybody just falls in love with. He is a trooper. He goes to school 5 days a week. He's got therapy 3 to 4, depending on the therapy days a week as well. Therapy in school, and we're working through all of what there is to work through with ASD right now.
Is the autism connected to the prematurity, or is there a connection?
Yeah, there's trauma at birth it contributes to developing ASD, as well as C-section, as well as prematurity. So there's like a 30% increased likelihood to develop ASD if you were born at 26 weeks, which Grayson was. And
Wow.
so, yeah, it's just if you could imagine fight or flight, that if you've ever had that feeling,
Yes.
that adrenaline, right? So he lives that 24/7. That's just his way
Oh
of.
my goodness, that would just wear your body out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
It's got to be exhausting.
Well, what happens is he's up, or he'll sleep for a short period of time, and then he's up until he just fries out, and then sometimes he'll just sleep for like a whole day.
And this is a regular, just how he has to live.
Yep.
My heart.
He's had quite a full life at 7.
Yeah, with all that adrenaline, he's just
Yeah.
he's going, making up for last time, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you the next question now, and that is, how did you come up with the title and cover of your book? And I know that the title is very significant from having read your book, but I'm going to let you explain why. So.
Yep. So we got during the NICU, through our charades with Dr. Campos, that it's important that Grayson is obviously breathing, which he was supported for a while. That he needs to have his mother's milk and eat, and he's got to poop. That's it. He's got to pee and poo. And so that kind of was like, okay, so breathe, eat, poop. And then we added grow, because we were like, you got to get bigger to get out of here. So then that was kind of our mantra: breathe, eat, poop, and grow. And we actually made it into a song that we would sing to him.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting. You ought to have people who've read your book sing the song to you.
Yeah.
Just to see what melody they put to it. You know what I mean?
Fun. I've had people do that. They're like, I feel like it's like this. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. So you've had people do that, yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. That was just our mantra. Boom, boom, breathe, eat, poop, and grow. Breathe, eat, poop, and grow. And so it wasn't really even a question, the name of the book. It had to be that. I know you're supposed to have 3, not 4 things in the title, but it just needed to be. I mean,
no,
and then you find out why.
It makes so much sense. So I'm going to bring up the cover so we can look at it, and you can give us the significance behind that.
So there was this is Diana's hand, and Grayson holding her finger in the NICU. You can see right beneath the saran wrap. And so it was an amazing moment. And I remember in the book, I told you I was snapping. I think I almost broke my phone. I was hitting the camera button so many times and so hard to get this amazing moment. And then it was no question about it, that had to be the cover.
Yeah, no question. That is profound. Like that's That's award winning right there. You need to be having a gold award sticker, up in the corner. If nothing else, but for that picture is amazing.
I mean, we would show people that picture and they would just, their breath is taken away. Just like,
Yeah.
what? Like it really puts it in perspective.
Yeah, it's a beautiful picture, and I, as a publisher, I'm an indie publisher, and so I love the font you chose. I love the way that you arranged the words, kind of
Yeah.
coming down the middle like that. It's just, it's fantastic book. It really is.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Now you're in that place where you've got a book that you can share the journey that you went on, help so many others. I love that you're donating the proceeds to helping those hospitals in Mexico. We are Facebook friends, and so I have seen that you posted that, they've got an incubator where they didn't have one before,
Yes.
but I
Yeah.
think that's it.
I was so happy and almost sad at the same time because I had this whole thing in my head. I was
Yeah.
going to deliver. We want to call them G units for Grayson, and
Yeah.
and put the little G Superman logo. But I'm so happy for Dr. Campos to be able to have that for the babies. And actually, currently, right this moment, he has a baby that's right at Grace's weight that he's caring for, but they're able to be in the isolate. So I'm praying for them. I'm praying for that family. But yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I could never even remotely think of taking a dime of profit from this book because of all the help that we received. I mean,
Yeah. No, it makes sense. You're paying it forward, and you're following the guidance that you received when you prayed to ask what to do. So I know this book will do wonderful because of that. And
thank you.
Whether it's more NICUs in that hospital or hospitals that don't have it, I know there's so many different things that you can continue to do with the proceeds and just with your story and with the inspiration. Okay, I got to ask this one question. And it's kind of like very, what's the word? Not super pertinent, but you talk so much about this dog named Cha-Cha. What is Cha-Cha? What kind of dog? I'm like, I wish you would have described. I wanted to see Cha-Cha in my mind. So.
She was amazing. She did pass away about 3 years ago now, but she was 17, and so she was the first. The first, I don't know what you call it, like, well, she was a pug and a beagle.
This will be this place where if anybody's curious, you just say, if you want to see Cha-Cha, then go watch my interview on Triumph Talks.
That's right. Perfect.
All right, we're going to do that. All right, so I'm going to ask you the last question now, because you did write a really important book. You did a beautiful job, perfectly edited, very entertaining, and you are a model. Just the fact that you wrote your story and shared it and are doing all this good. So what advice do you have for anybody else that has a similar call as you?
Yeah. So I'll tell you all the things that made me procrastinate for 3 years, and then what finally kicked it all off. And
Good.
Yeah. The idea, like I told you originally, the seed was planted by our friend to write the book, and in that moment there was no way. But after Grayson, got home, and it was, he said, okay, he's doing pretty good now, maybe we should write that book. So I said, how the heck do you write a book? And of course I started looking at apps, and I got all bogged down with, okay, well, which writing app should I use? And should I do Scrivener? Should I do Google Docs? Should I do Microsoft? Well, how do I, and then I got lost in that world. So all the analysis paralysis started, and it was a diversion for me to just, not write. I was getting prepared. I was, making outlines, all of that. And it was now 2 years later, 3 years later, and that was it. We went to church. The pastor told us to ask God what he wants us to do with our lives. And it was just in that moment, write the book, speak about it, transform lives. And Diana and I were like, okay, this is it, But what I needed to do for my analytical brain was figure out how many words is a memoir. Like what is that? So the average is, like 65 to 100,000 words. And so then I thought, well, how long does it take to type 100,000 words? And I want to do it in a year. So I figured out, if you take 100,000 words divided by 365, you get however many words. It was 200 and some 50 words. And so then I was like, well, how long does it take to write 250 words? And I looked it up and figured out the average words per minute. And it came down to 7 minutes a day. And I thought,
wow, what a science. I have never seen such a scientific approach to the creative process of writing. I love it.
Wow. And I was like, well, I have 7 minutes a day. I can figure that out. What I didn't account for was all of the research and the emotion. Oh my gosh. I think I went through a case of Kleenex, to relive all these experiences and then try to, like you say, put them in descriptive language and make it come to life. But I'll tell you what, once I got that calling and once I figured out, 7 minutes a day or 200 words, I wrote the first word, and that turned into the first sentence, the first paragraph, the first page, and then I would find nooks and crannies out of every day. I would wake up at 4 a.m. and I would write for 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and there were times where, hey, it's time for vacation. Okay, I'm going to write on vacation, and that didn't work. So that was a week and a half gone, but then I would come back to it. And lo and behold, it took me 26 months to piece together my 15 minutes. Because in between all of that, we had a second child, which was completely unexpected. And that's our little Nathan. So we're busy, at that point we had.
And Diane didn't have any problems with that pregnancy.
Oh my gosh, no, we were so stressed out.
I bet you were. Oh my gosh, I bet you were.
When we got to 26 weeks, we're like, stay in there, But yeah, no, he went as
you had a different mantra: stay in.
keep cooking, But yeah, I think the advice really is, if it's on your heart and you want to do it, don't get caught up in all the minutia. Just write. I mean, I started looking at YouTube videos on how to write a book, and then, oh shoot, I don't have all this. I didn't do this first. I did that I just did it. I made a little outline and I just went to town. And then I did have a professional editor.
I can tell you did, and I'm very glad you did that, because too many people don't realize how important that is.
Oh yeah, no, she was incredible. And the flow and everything, it just helps. It was, and then I also had a cover designer and the book formatter. She did all of that.
Yeah.
So that was it. I think that a lot of people, I've talked to people, I'm at 10,000 words and I just quit. And I'm like, no, just write another sentence, and just.
So how long did it take? You did it in a year?
26 months.
Okay.
Yeah, it was 26 months, 10 months for editing and book cover and design and formatting. And then,
wow.
Yeah. So,
wow. You did it right. You did it the quality way. Traditional publishers will take that long, at least. They'll take 2 years sometimes,
Yeah. I mean, if I were to do it again now, it would probably be, I get like it was. Like I said, sometimes I only had 10 minutes to write. So, I write a paragraph, but
wow.
I would chunk out some more time and just knock
As a writer, I have to say my process would not work like that. Like, oh my gosh, I'm impressed. But I can tell you're very, like you're more analytical, I can tell you're very analytical.
Yes.
I know when I sit down to write, once I'm in, it's like, leave me alone for a couple hours. I got a train going. I cannot imagine writing it in paragraphs. That's amazing. And to have such skill too. You really have skill for writing. And
I really appreciate that. I don't know. I just,
everybody has their own way of doing it, which I think the takeaway here is really just whatever works for you, just get it done.
Yeah.
And then get some professional help to make sure it's polished.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, and I should also mention, thank you, because you had Grayson autograph it right along with you. I'm like, oh, that is a keepsake. And I'm sure it will be valuable someday when you are a very famous author, and, sought after speaker. So
From your lips to God's ears. Yeah, no, it's if you purchase it from our site and you're in the US, we can have Grayson sign it.
Oh, so others can have it too. So you have a website where they go to for that?
Yeah, it's brianheilig.com,
Okay.
BrianHeilig.com. And that's, either way, if you want the signed copy, that's amazing. Or you can just go on Amazon, it's there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I recommend the signed copy. I'm glad I got one. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My
Thank you
pleasure.
for joining me. It's really
Yeah.
great.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.